A little over a couple of months ago, we were all saying Happy New Year to one another. And since that time, it has been a year like none other. But I humbly submit to you this morning that this is the year that you've been waiting for. Because right now presents the greatest opportunity, perhaps, that you will have in your lifetime to pursue your purpose, to pursue your dreams, and to pursue God's calling for your life. There's a shift that has taken place. The shift that has taken place is a relational shift. Our relationships will be different going forward. There's a generational shift that has taken place. That innovation will accelerate, and it would seem like it's almost skipped a generation. And then there is a wealth shift that is taking place. You know, I believe that whenever there is a crisis in life, there is an opportunity in life. I know you've heard the old saying that action speaks louder than words. You know, that actual saying is, in some parts, have a biblical basis. I'd like for you to just look here in the book of James chapter 2, because today what I want to talk to you about is I want to talk to you about making your move. It's time to make your move. And in the book of James chapter 2, verse 24, James says it like this. He says, "You see that a man is justified by works and not by faith only." Now, the word justified, it means to become as you ought to be. Now, you are saved by faith, not by works. But after you are saved, that you become as you ought to be by works. Works are required for you to become what you ought to be. And so James is saying that if you think that you will become something, he's saying that if you talk about becoming something, he's saying that you will not become what you desire to become or what you ought to be unless you do something. And another passage he says in James chapter 1, verse 22, and I love this particular passage because it says, "Do not merely listen to the word and deceive yourself. Do what it says." You know what? When someone is deceived, they really don't know they're deceived. And so they keep being deceived because they can't recognize that they're deceived. And so James is saying that if you think listening to the word or hearing the word is going to make a difference in your life, that you are deceiving yourself. One translation says that do not be a hearer only, but be a doer of the word. And that refers to the comparison between an accredited student and an audit student. You see, an accredited student is someone who goes to class and they receive the information, but they have to do the homework. They have to take the exams. And at the end of the semester, that they are graded and they are promoted to the next level. But an audit student can attend class and they receive the information, but they don't have to do the work. They don't have to take any exams. But at the end of the semester, they're not graded and they do not qualify to go to the next level. And so what James is saying here is that to qualify to advance in life, to qualify to move forward in life, that it's not just listening or hearing the word of God, but it is actually practicing it, putting it into action, and doing something. Now, today, there are 26 million people that have lost their jobs over the last 5 weeks. You might be one of those individuals. And perhaps you're waiting for things to return back to normal. Perhaps you're waiting to be able to just get out of the house and go where you'd like to. Or you're waiting for your job to call you back. You know, I want to encourage you that while you're waiting, if you would work while you're waiting. That I want to encourage you to work while you are waiting. And you say, well, what do you mean work while I am waiting? You see, you do not need anyone's permission to produce your own music. You don't need anyone's permission to write your own blog, to publish your own book. You don't need anyone's permission to create a product. You don't need anyone's permission to solve a problem. You know, the Bible tells us that there was a plague that came to Egypt. When that plague came to Egypt, God began to speak to his people. And he said that no longer wait. Do not wait anymore, but go forward. He says that I want you to go forward out of Egypt. Go forward toward the Red Sea. Go forward. And as long as they began to move forward, they were getting closer to their promise. But when they stopped, they began to reflect back on their past. They began to reflect back on what God was delivering them from. And God always expected them to make crossings. And so what God told them, he told them in Exodus chapter 23. It's a powerful word that God told them. He says that, look, if you worship me, if you serve me, then I am going to send a ministering angel. And this ministering angel will give you instructions. And if you do everything that I tell you to do, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversary. Isn't that wonderful news that God will be an enemy to your enemies and God will be an adversary to your adversary? And so what he says here in Exodus chapter 23, verse 27, he says that I will send my fear before you, and I will cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. See, there were 6 major enemies in the promised land that God had made them a promise, but there were still enemies that were in their promised land. And God said that I am going to be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. So as you serve me and as you move towards your promise, that I will cause your enemies to turn their backs to you. And notice what God says in the 28th verse. He says that, and I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites from before you. Now, what a beautiful picture that is, because God said that there are 6 major enemies there, and I'm going to drive them out, but I'm not going to drive them out at once because I need them to take care of what I have promised you until you're ready to step into that. See, I believe that there are things that God, there's a dream, there's an idea that God has for you. There is a solution that God has for you to a problem that exists in the world. And God has other people working on it until you get to the place that you're ready to receive it yourself. And God is saying that I will be an enemy to your enemies and I will be an adversary to your adversaries. And he says that I'll drive out the Hivites, I'll drive out the Canaanites, and I'll drive out the Hittites. You know what? It's a beautiful picture. And so I want to tell you that God said that I'm going to send hornets to drive them out. And you know what? The word Hivites, it means, and it refers to a group of people that will try and pull you down. God said that there are people, as you pursue that plan, the purpose that I have for your life, there are people that will try to pull you down. But I will send the ministering angel, and I will be an enemy to your enemies, and I will be an adversary to your adversary. And God said that I'm going to drive out the Canaanites. And you know what that word Canaanites mean? It means to humiliate. And see, there are people who will try to bring shame from your yesterday into your today to try to stop you from doing the very thing that God is instructing you to do. And God says that I will be an enemy to those who try to humiliate you. I will be an adversary to those who try and bring your past up into your present to try to prevent you from going forward to what I have instructed you to do. And then he says that I'll send hornets and I'll destroy the Hittites. This word Hittite means terror. It means people that try and discourage you by creating fear and creating distress. And God says that I will be an enemy to them. I will be an adversary to them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send hornets and they will drive them out. You know what? The amazing thing about a hornet is hornet has three things. A hornet has a sound. A hornet has a sting. And a hornet has a swarm. And if you try and kill a hornet near its nest, that hornet will release a distress signal. And all the other hornets will come and they will begin to swarm to the defense of the hornet that is in danger. Look, if God said that he's going to be an enemy to your enemies, glory to God, that he's going to be an adversary to your adversaries, it's time for you to make your move. Make your move. God says it's time to go forward. It's time to make your move. And I want to encourage you that as you prepare to go forward, as you are moving forward, to begin to become as you ought to be, I want to encourage you to access your assets. Access your assets, because there are several people this week were asking me, well, how do I do it? What do I do as I prepare to move forward? And I'm encouraging you to access your assets. You know what? Your provision, your inheritance for your family is in at least one of three areas. It's in your hand. That there is something that you can do. And you have a skill set. And when you apply that skill, when you apply that which you have an ability to do at an exceptional level, that it will cause provision to come. And so as you begin to think about what is that I'm moving forward on, keep in mind that it's either in your hand. It's in your ability. There is something that you know or it is in your house. It's in your hand. It's in your ability, or it's in your house. A perfect example is this woman in 2 Kings chapter 4. She came to Elisha and she says that, man of God, my husband has died and the creditors are coming to take my sons as slaves. And Elisha looks at her and he says, what do you have in your house? And she said, nothing but a jar of oil. Elisha says to her, he says that go and borrow empty vessels from your neighbors and borrow not a few. And as this woman goes out and she begins with her son to collect these empty vessels, she brings them back to her house and follows the instruction of Elisha. He says that what I want you to do is I want you to begin to pour that oil into the empty vessels. And as she closed the door and began to pour the oil in the empty vessels, and she began to pour the oil in the empty vessels and pour the oil. And then she reached over to her son and she says, pass me another empty vessel. And he says that there aren't any more it was at that moment that the oil flow stopped. And her miracle did not come from her assets. It came from her access that she had to other assets. God has something planned for you. And your miracle may not be in what you own, but it may be in what you have access to. And so it's time no longer to wait. It's time to make your move, because you serve a God who says that I'll be an enemy to your enemies. I'll be an adversary to your adversary. And now it's time for you to go forward. Well, I trust that you've received something today that you'll be able to take with you and begin to apply it in your life. I want you to remember that it's time to make your move. And God will walk alongside of you. God will be there with you because he said that I'll be an enemy to your enemies and I'll be an adversary to your adversary. And so why wait if you've got God on your side? Because I declare that if it had not been for the Lord on our side, where would we be? And so as you go forward in power, go forward in might, and it's time that you make your move. I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful time.